Hey YouTube, thanks for stopping in Arch's Garage. Today's focus is going to be on the Honda lawnmower, or really more specifically the Honda engine, because this engine, GC160, GC190, GCV, however you want to say it, really doesn't matter. We're going to focus in on installing the carburetor. You try to install one of these carburetors, and if you're paying attention, you'll probably be fine. If you're not paying attention, you probably won't even know that you installed it wrong, like this last person, whoever it was that owned this and tried to work on it. Maybe it was the same person, maybe it was a mechanic. They got it wrong. And of course, I wound up with this machine. This is my machine. I've owned hundreds of them, and I've thrown out, I don't know, 50 or 60 engines. I've had a lot of these. So I want to prepare this thing, try to get it for sale. And I'm going through it, and it looks like it's an aftermarket carburetor. It had a broken backing plate. Usually one of these tangs or something will break. And so I'm going to replace that. Now I want to show you this, and we're going to dial in a little bit as to, forget about the year exactly. There, you could read multi-page explanations of the year of one of these things and you'll just be baffled. Here's some of the ways you can figure it out. Now, let's start off with, like I said, this one has a red top. There are some much older, very old Honda engines. We're not talking about the really old ones. These are lawnmower style, but the same can be true for some of the engines that were put on other lawnmowers, including even some pressure washers. This is the top that came with it. All right, so yours will look very much like this. And this is a slightly different top. This is for the GCV 160, the 5.5. It is essentially the same top. It's very similar. If you look at the way the gas tank sets up, a little bit different. Okay, the way the fuel tube comes out, if you look, you can see slight differences. So the red top is ours. Now this is an HRR mower. So rear-wheel drive, pretty much all are, except for the ones that don't have a drive system on them. And it is not a semi-automatic choke. Now, one of the ways, it doesn't have that mechanism on here. And you'll know, see, we're actually going to be, I'm going to be taking the sticker off. And I try to keep these stickers because usually they get damaged, they fall off, or sometimes my pressure washer will grab them. This is a replacement for the one that was broken. Now, this one here has two holes in it with bushings. Usually you'll often find one with over here where it has an additional bushing, where it mounts to a bracket that was mounted over here, which was part of the semi-automatic choke. It has a gray lever. You pull it back, you start the choke that way. It's like a timer mechanism. And when you pull on the handle, you have to race against it. Because as soon as you pull back on the bail or the engine kill ignition handle, it will start to time out and then go to the off position. That's not the one we're working on. If you look here, you'll see I've been working on this already, so I've already set it up. This piece right here is the automatic choke. So that would be found on pretty much all of the newer engines. This is what we're going to be focusing on. But it doesn't really matter. Because of the semi-automatic choke, there's one additional step, which is not outlined in this one. I do have other videos on it. However, the gasket stack, the way all that is set up, is really the same thing. And that's where a lot of people get tripped up. So we don't have to worry about the choke system so much, although I'm going to give you some tips on what I do to help hold things together, hold everything in place so that it aligns properly, makes our lives a little bit easier. Because as I start to put this on, the camera and you yourself, your eyes, my eyes, we're not going to be able to really see what the hell's going on. So there's really no way to get a good camera in there either, unless you got some kind of crazy camera tricks. I've tried, and we'll try to stick a camera in that area, but I want to set it up so that we can get a feel in our mind and get set up with some basic tips and tricks on, sort of gluing gaskets to certain things, making sure certain things are in order, And then that way, when we go to do our assembly, everything should just kind of like pop together for us, and we're not going to have leaks. In the case of this one, the gaskets were not assembled right. I think one of them was even missing, and I doubt this engine would have ran at all or started, and if it did, it would have ran terribly. Let me shut that off, hold on. Raj, why don't you shut that thing off before you get started with an intro? Look, listen, fella. I'm in here every day doing this, right? So, shoot me, I'm going to forget things after a while. So, like I said, this engine came on a lot of things, but this is a newer design. About how old is this thing? I mean, you look at the thing, it looks like it's a little beat up, and I already cleaned it. Of course, this is a good time, fellas, to get in here and clean everything out. If you have a carburetor problem, it looks like this one here. See, this is actually a carburetor off of something else. It is a Honda, and you'll see that they are very similar. Very similar. And I forgot what I took this off of. One of the Honda engines I decided to trash because it was no good. This is an aftermarket carburetor. And that's another reason why I say somebody was in here, and I can tell that there was evidence of that. Right now I got to go find another float bowl. You know why? Because this screw, when I went to tighten it, stripped out. The rest of the carburetor seems okay. I guess it's aftermarket. See, there's the little brass jet up there. You would not find something like that on an actual Honda. Not that I'm aware of. Boy, I tell you the weight. Oh my, what a difference in weight. Took it off of something, a Honda. But keep in mind, I'm also doing some diagnostic and some setups on the rest of the machine. So it'll be, some things might seem a little bit out of sequence. Just keep that in mind. Don't get confused by that. You see I'm actually working on this machine. It was completely questionable. I got it for very little money, not running condition. Somebody was in it. It has some broken stuff. So bear with me. I'm not going to show all of that. If I do a video like that on this machine, or there are others that I have, that's separate. Let's get started on it. And what I'm noticing is that this is the wrong carburetor. So this is an aftermarket carburetor. I went through it. It seems like it's pretty clean. But I can tell you right now, as I do a mock-up, right, this is the kind of stuff that we as mechanics deal with. Right? This is not the right carburetor because it has a piece that sticks up and comes and contacts this thing here. We'll try to hold it, but it's got no action on the choke. So whoever ordered this carburetor did not pay any attention. That's why I'm saying, if you're paying attention, you don't have to know, but if you're paying attention, you'll catch certain things. So whoever did this was literally completely oblivious. So although this carburetor looked clean, I threw it back together again when I'm finding it's the wrong one. Now I'm going to go look through my inventory and see if I can find the correct carburetor. Now you might say, right, so this carburetor actually, it is set up like this one, has the same throttle setup on it. So this is not for this kind of actuation. It would require a rod, right, connecting to something in order to actuate the choke. Let me go see what I turn up. Hopefully I have something. All right, so I just picked up two and I wanted to show you. There's some differences even here, although they're very similar. This is probably the newest variant. So he's got like a bulbous top on it, but this one doesn't. But it looks like it would actuate the same way. Let me throw this one on. I mean, they both look pretty good. This is very clean, but we don't know what's inside. I don't think I opened it either. And this one's lighter. This one's heavier, so it's hard to say. All right, here's a little closer look. So this is a slightly dirtier one, but as we can see here, this whole thing is about to actuate the choke. And we'll see. There it goes. I'll kind of hold it. I'll try to get my hand out of the way, but look, right? Now I save bushings. Some of the bushings are from the hats themselves, right? The gas tank, there's bushing in there. I save them for different reasons, but I usually keep a set around. And here's a shorter set. And one of the things that I'll do is when I have a problem like this, and you could do something like this, We want a bushing like this or like that, or the ones that sometimes come out of the air cleaner housing in the back. They also work very well. They fit in here, and you can just borrow yours. And what's kind of neat about doing this is I can hook up everything, but leave that plastic thing off. And if I'm not sure of what's going on, I may have a carburetor issue, or I need to tune it, the motor's aged, I may need to drill out the jet. I'm just not really confident. I don't know the machine. I've never seen this engine run. So I'm going to check it's for spark, and I'm going to check its compression. But this is a carburetor, again, off of something else, or maybe you bought a carburetor and you're not sure. I'm going to bolt it up like that and hook everything up, and we'll bring it out and we'll run it with the carb open. So we'll have the top on, but this area we'll be able to get to. And that's going to allow us to check for leaks, to see if things are working well. Again, if I need to tune it, I'll be able to take it off, put it back on quick, and I won't have to fuss with this. And you'll see the layout of the gaskets as well. Now, this is our front gasket, so we won't need the front gasket, but we will need the carb to this spacer, phenolic insulator / choke plate. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. Let me fool around with this carburetor, and I'll bring you back for that, just to peek inside. All right, took the carb off. All right, so let's take a look at what we got. See this? Okay, this was here. That does not go there. Okay. There was no gasket because the gasket is here. And it's pretty much beat up. Look, I'm spilling fuel. It's pretty much beat up. So that was wrong. Then there's this on here, which is where this goes, but it was not there. So somebody's been in this and they didn't know what they were doing. This is no good. I don't know if somebody put this on there, but it's too dry. It's not going to seal. We'll get that off. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll get a new one of these. When we go in the carburetor, not going to be a carb rebuild video, but I'll peek in there. I just wanted you to see. Now, see this guy here, this is our choke lever. And these see how sticky it is? These get real stuck. So I'll take my tranny sauce, and we're just going to hose it down. And I'm going to move it around a whole bunch of times, until it feels a little bit better. You can take them off, but if they're on there, well, don't, excuse me, don't bother. Like I said, I'm just going to work this, and then I'll wipe it with a rag, and I'll do it a whole bunch of times. You see how it came off? See? That's why I say don't do it, but I'm doing this at one hand. So you can damage the gasket. So now I'm going to have to replace that gasket. So what we'll do is I'll put my release agent on it and just let it sit. See, in here, there's a thermostat, and there's this guy in there. You want to make sure that's all nice and clean around it. We did a pretty good job of pressure washing, so it's pretty clean overall. All right, we'll come back to that. Well, that all looks good here. All right, and we're cleaning here. I'm going to wipe that out. I'll blow it out. See this little guy there? I think that comes out. Usually they get stuck. Oh, let's see if we can grab that. Yeah, that's it. And they usually get stuck. Okay, so we'll just rinse that off. And then I'll just run my little brush in there. That's a little port. It's like a heater port. See if it'll focus on that. Okay, and just kind of clean that out, blow it out, make sure everything is good in here. Now over here, everything looks real good. There was just a little bit of schmutz in there. I'll pull that jet out. I'll go in there and clean everything out. This might even be a replacement carburetor, although this machine is not that old because this is the newer choke design, heater style stove. Finish cleaning this out, make sure everything works good. You see the little spring? And there was some schmutz in the bottom because it's been rusting, but not bad, right? I'll get that out. We'll wipe that with some Scotch-Brite. Let me take that bolt out, get out of my way. And like I said, and then I'll go find a kit for it. I should have a gasket kit for this. All right, that's all cleaned up, all right? Washed out. Hit it with my little buzz wheel. And I'm going to put a little bit of high tack on that. A lot of times when I'm busy working on other things, I will do this and then I'll high tack. Already got it on one side. I'll put it on this side. Anything we can do, like you can just do it this way and glue this up, and it's one less gasket to screw up. But if I really have time, if I do both sides, I'll actually be able to glue this kind of up in place. It'll stay there, which will make life so much easier. I still have to find that piece. I have to go through some stuff, and I think I got some things I could probably put away in the shop. So, and I'm not done with the carburetor yet. So I figured I like to do this kind of stuff. I clean the gas tank. That's outside drying. There was a lot of crap in it, water and junk. And I'll do this. You know, after I get these kinds of things done, when you're kind of waiting for this stuff to set up, you can do other things to kill the time. Well, that's almost completely stuck on there. And then to keep it from moving around, I like to thread these guys in and just leave it sit because it's kind of stuck. You see, I can move it a little bit, but it's good enough, right? It's not dry. I'm pushing it. And then I finished cleaning this up. Just look at these. Look at all of this stuff. It just, I didn't really have to do anything. This looks like an aftermarket. Look, it's got the jet up here, which you're going to want to keep clean. That I don't like. They're open to the weather. But the cover on these machines, on the carbs and stuff, they kind of protect it. You need to keep your engine clean. This is adjustable. It is fully adjustable. I don't know if it's correct or not. It's really hard to get in there. It's the gasket pack that actually helps to protect and allow for movement through these ports here on the Honda air filter plate, backing plate. Remember now, these steel things in here, these are called bushings to keep it from crushing down. But it will warp. This one is warped. You can see it. It will warp. He didn't have the gaskets on correctly. I pre-glue these together as like a pack. This is almost dry. And they're pretty close. They're good enough for me to assemble. This is the carburetor side. And then the thicker gasket. You'll see here's your hole. That goes here. So you know a lot of people don't get that. See? And that helps to support the plastic. Because you're tightening everything as a sandwich. And if you don't get it all right, it won't tighten properly. And there's still one more gasket, which is missing. But we have here, that's this gasket. Now, you could glue this one on. I tend not to. Because at this point, I'm able to assemble everything correctly. And I'm not as worried, right? It'll all line up. Tend not to put this on. I think a better thing to do is put some either chain wax on that gasket or some lithium grease and coat it good so you can get all this apart. Again, I don't like to put any high tack or anything here because this on the carburetor sides, if I can get away with it, we don't want to do that. We don't want a lot of junk on the carburetor in case we need to take it apart. We don't want this section getting stuck. We just want to assist ourselves and make sure that certain areas are sealed. Well, this has been up there for a long time. You know, the spider webs. Let me blow this out. That's gross. Oh man, there's all kinds of critters and yuck in there. Insects eating stuff. All right, let me get in there. All right, so for me, it's the next day. So let's assemble it. Now I'm going to be using these bushings here, which you'll see, but you can borrow these from your plastic backing plate. They just pop out. They kind of go in more one direction. See how that's kind of popping out? Now, if everything works good and I still have ignition to do and I want to just test compression and do a plug and we got to find some blades, I got to put the tank on. The tank is already clean. That was rinsed out, a little super clean with water. It was pretty filthy. Like I said, I blew this out. We're going to trim this. Like I'm dealing with this now because this was no good. So we don't know what size this is exactly. It's a nice used one. So I have stuff to do, and then we're going to test this machine with it open. And then if everything is good, it'll come back and I'll show you putting it back together again. So we won't be needing this for right now, or this. So we're going to keep these together and put them to the side. Now, normally I would put this on first, and then sandwich everything in, right? So I would go like this. So you would see this. Some people put the spring on first. This one's pretty easy to get to. Then I would put the fuel line on, right? But we don't know what the size is. So we can't do that yet. We're not really sure. And so I made my mark, and that was supposed to go towards the carb side. And I put some lithium on there. So we should be able to get it off no problem. And we'll grab one of these, slide it through. This has been glued on for days. It's not a hard glue, it's just a high-tack adhesive. I like to start everything by hand just to make sure. Yeah, it feels good. It's just snug for now. Just check that. Okay. Now let's see. This kind of goes up there. We could put a little bit of a pressure on it. We'll take a little off. See how that works. You can always cut more. Or you can go get the tubing and wire stretcher. Let's see how that goes on. Just kind of leave it there like that. It might work okay. Remember, there's an elevation difference, so if we feel like it's a little too kinky, that feels about right. Again, we're going to be coming back to this, so don't over tighten. I'm using 1/4-inch drive. No ratchets, no banger guns. This is plastic back here. Yeah, that feels good. It's compressing the gasket. Check it again. I've already lubed all of this, but we could put a little bit more lube on that. But you want something that's not really going to gum up. Bit of chain wax would work, or chain lube is better. Check throttle while we're here. That feels good. Okay, see how it assists the choke in movement? Now, this by nature, the choke is on, so when she goes to start, she's going to be all choked up. And then as it warms up, okay, as the throttle pulls, which is the other thing that's going to start to happen, as the engine begins to come up, it's going to try to pull on the throttle, and it's going to start to take the choke off, and that'll let it breathe to some degree, and then this will come, and then the choke is off. So here, this is the carb the guy put on, so there wouldn't have been any choke. So if you put everything together, good luck trying to start it, because there'd be no choke, there's no primer, so you'd have to squirt fuel in it. Would this work? It possibly could, if it was installed right. First of all, it wasn't even installed right. The gaskets weren't in the right places, so that was a problem. But the man would have had no choke whatsoever. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. We're going to do a few other things. Couple little things we'll do. Touch a lube on that. Touch a lube on this. Okay, it's just my tranny sauce. Make things go on a little easier. Okay, so choke, throttle. Now we got to put the throttle on and hang the spring. And that's the best angle I can come up with right now. Like I said, it's going to be hard to see a lot of it. Right now we got that there. Let's put our fuel line on. The bolts through. Remember, the thicker gasket, the wider gasket on the steel, right? And that little hole, which I've showed you before, which is going to come over here. We'll lay that on, and a sort of thinner and more smaller or narrower gasket to the carb. And that's been glued for days. And now we're going to assemble the sandwich. We'll start off with this. Try to keep my hands out of the way a little bit. Push it through. Now this is the other gasket. Okay, so this gasket that's on here, it's back here behind that black phenolic insulator choke assembly, but this is the carb gasket. And remember, I made a little notation on it in white, but you can see how it lays. And remember, we went through that before. Lift this up a little bit. It's been lubricated. We'll be able to shove that on there in a minute. And I'm going to reach in and just kind of as I'm sort of putting this on, I'm just going to slip it on. All right, we're almost there. Fighting the fuel line just slightly. And again, try to do this, don't do this with any kind of zapper gun or whatever. You can use a, just like a handle, nut driver style handle. Not a bad idea, it'll help. And it's kind of pushing it through the gaskets a little bit. You might see, maybe a little piece of gasket, a little tight. But now I know it's all lined up. And we're going to try to keep it aligned. Just helping it. Because it'll twist a little bit on us. Because we got some pressure from that fuel line. But you can see now there's no way to really get to the fuel line back here. Right? And I forgot to put the fuel clamp on, so we're just going to lean over, and I have one of these. Right, so I just leaned in there and I put the clamp on. Yeah, that's nice. We'll get a quick little side peek, checking to make sure that that bigger line, right? It's not a fuel line. The one I just sort of slipped onto the back here. It goes into this little baffle. That's coming from the crankcase vent valve. That's what that's coming from. So it's venting gases from inside the motor over to the front, behind the filter, and it'll get sucked back in. So recirculation system. So I didn't tighten it. I just want to check throttle. I'm going to peek in. Make sure my throttle is going. Yep. And I want to make sure my choke is going. Yep. And I can see it and hear. Just like before. And now we'll just tighten the stack. Again, trying to rotate it, lifting up on this side a little bit. Just to, fighting that fuel line just a little bit. A little tension there. And go slow, a little bit at a time. I'm using 1/4-inch drive, 10 millimeter on a little stubby ratchet. That's what I would recommend. Yeah, just cinching it in. Remember, there's a lot of plastic in here. And I borrowed those ferrules. Well, I have my own ferrules, but if you've borrowed your ferrules, don't forget to put them back into the plastic. Yeah, that's good. Just kind of letting it, I'm tightening it, but I'm letting it sort of squeeze in. Because remember, we've got like sealers and stuff. So just go slow. Let it kind of suck in and get tight, and it'll ooze out. It's just been days later. But that's how these projects go. And now I can put this back. I feel comfortable. I've lubricated the pull starter, so I might want to just, you can see I put a lot of lubricant in there. So it's been spinning over. Remember now, these things get very sticky. A little bit of oil, your tranny fluid mix, chain wax. Chain lube is the best because it'll gel up and it won't fly all over, just like on your motorcycle or bike chain. But when they get real sticky, you kind of have to almost rinse them out with some kind of a penetrant. I've put a little bit of no-sees on these studs up here, which are just about out of camera shot. All right, we're all ready. I got a little bit of gas in it. I checked the oil. It's gross, but it's full. I put a little bit of my tranny sauce mix into the combustion chamber and turned it over with the drill. And blew that through. That'll loosen things up a little bit. It'll smoke a little. Plug is in. I got about 100 PSI, which is very good on a motor like this. Spark is nice. So we should just be able to fire it up. Choke is closed now, is normally closed when it's cold. It's cool out. Let's give it a pull. Blade is on. You always got to check with a blade on. So I got a nice, fresh, sharpened blade. Looks great. Working good. Let it run for a bit. So the motor is running really good. we have excellent spark. We've got a good plug in there. We've cleaned out the fuel tank. I blew out the filter. We replaced the line. There was the wrong carburetor on it. And then I showed you guys, I went and grabbed another carburetor from my inventory. It's from a slightly different, possibly different machine or engine. One has to understand that there are differences. Like, for example, the bag that I want to put on here, it looked like it would fit. It had the same design. It was a slightly larger bag. As time went on, they made the bag slightly smaller, and therefore it's a different bag. There are little model changes over the years, so it's not the newest versions of the steel body before they stopped making them, but it's close to it. We're a little over 3,000 RPMs. That's perfect for these motors, especially as they age. We got good oil in it. I cleaned up the front here as well and bent the tires back so they're not pigeon-toed and they look more correct. And that's all going good. It rolls nice. Blades are nice. I put some nice blades on it as well. All sharpened up and ready to go. Lubricated the cables, did a few other things even. This is nice too. These little things over here, they're adjusters. So mine has that, and it's adjustable handle, and it's quick and it's easy, especially if different people are using the machine. It makes it very nice. These are very nice machines. I'm going to try and get it up for sale. It's that time of year. Very happy with it, and hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for stopping in this episode of Arch's Garage.